Okay, so let's go ahead now and try to create a pencil brush from scratch. So you can see that I have a very basic brush, basic settings. I have pen brusher enabled, so you can see this. Anyway, now let's go ahead, clean the canvas and start the process. Now the first thing I want to I want to make sure when I'm creating something like a pencil brush is my brush, I want it to be organic. So I don't want it to be very defined like this. So the first thing, the most important thing here, which is not everything, but it's like the most important thing that is going to make it look realistic, is choosing a good brush tip. So I don't want the brush tip like this, because I know my pencil isn't that perfect, and the paper that I draw on, normally has some kind of texture. So I want to simulate this with a brush tip. So I'm going to press F5, sorry, and I'm going to choose a different brush tip. So I'm going to scroll down to these scatter brushes. You can see those brushes, and I'm going to choose one of them, like this one. Okay, let's go ahead now and just click once. Let's just make it bigger. You can see that this is my brush tip. This will look more, organic and natural when drawing. So let's go ahead and clean. Okay, and I'm gonna make it small. Now, pencil has a small tip, so you can't just expect a brush like this to look like a pencil straight away. Go ahead and make it smaller, just a bit bigger, something like that. So now this is the first step. Now the second step is, let's go ahead now to the settings, and what I have here is, let's go ahead, and the first thing is I'm going to change the spacing. You can see how this stroke is, just filling the whole thing. I want a little bit of spacing to separate those things from each other. You can see starting to get something good here. Okay, we're still we're still far behind, but this is a step. Okay, so let's say we're done here. I'll be going to the shape dynamic. Now the first thing is the size jitter. This is like the randomness of the size. Let's go ahead now and choose off. Okay, I want the size jitter to be 100. Now this is not what I'm going to do with this brush, but it's sort of, I'm going to explain to you the settings while I'm working, so you kind of get a little bit more grasp of them. Okay, so just go ahead and make it big, and you can see now this is the size jitter. It's set to 100. So when I'm making a stroke, you can see how the size is changing. So it has different sizes. Now this is not about the pen brusher. Pen brusher is only changing the opacity here. So this is, I have now the exact same brusher, and now I'm using the mouse now, so you can see how this is changing. Okay, let's go ahead, just clean it. It's a lot of mess. Okay, I don't want to rotate it. So this is the size jitter. Now the minimal diameter is the smallest stroke or the smallest tip that you can have in the randomness. So it's going to be from 0 to 100, or you can make it from 50 to 100. You can see you don't have a lot of these small strokes like here, but I prefer to just leave it at pen pressure and make it 0, and this one as well. So you can see this is going to be about the pen pressure. Then you have the angle jitter. Now this is not gonna make anything useful to us right now, but it's actually the same as the size. This is how you can change the angle of the stroke. Now this could be obvious in something like let's go ahead, choose like the, okay, what we have, it's like the grass. You can see the stroke is just exactly the same angle. Let's go ahead now and make this pen pressure. You can see how this is changing. Now this is light pressure. When I brush more, I have more pressure, it's going to rotate a bit more. So you can see when I change my pressure, it's changing the angle. Okay, so let's go ahead and keep it off, and it's actually not going to make anything different. with our in our situation. Anyway, now let's go ahead and we're we're pretty much done here. Now the roundness is exactly the same, so you know what is the roundness and you know what is the jitter. It's the same concept right here. Okay, let's go ahead and clean it. Okay, so now we reach this much of the pencil that we're trying to create. Now we're missing still we're missing a little bit more. So what we can do now, we can use this scattering. So now we enable the scattering and we open it. So this is going to scatter a little bit the texture. It's not going to be very unified or going on the same stroke that you create. And you can see now it's kind of starting to create more organic look. So let's go ahead and make this smaller, like that. Okay, that's very much too small. And you can see that with the scatter, you can just increase the scatter something like this. And now you can see the difference. This is more like a pencil. You can see the difference between this one and this one. And you can see how far we gone from this to this. So this is basically it for creating the pencil brush. Let's go ahead now and just show you like how it's going to be, you know, looking organic, or let's say natural. When you sketch, you know, normally this is how you can, on a rough paper, this is how it's going to look like. Create the shadow right here. This is the shadow there. Now this is very rough. I'm not trying to do, you know, drawings and sketches. I'm just showing you how this would feel organic and, you know, real, like a real pencil, like a real pencil would. So let's go ahead and do this. Of course, that's not how you would shade. No, I'm just trying to make it fast. So anyway, now let's say that this is our little sketch that is very, very rough and, you know, somewhat ugly, but it can do the job. And okay, making it uglier now. Like I said, now we're done with the pencil brush. Now there are a lot of, you know, pencil types, so you need to work a little bit more to create something like, you know that the HB pencil is different from the B2 and different from the B8, and you know, these kind of types. So now what we can do in the end, when we have our brush, is just we can, you know, save it. Go ahead, name it like pencil, pencil. I don't know how that would be. Okay, I'll just make, you know, regular pencil.